Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are official. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, Brother Wayne here from Alabama. This channel is all about world news and how it correlates to biblical prophecy. Welcome to January 20th, Wednesday, and today is a special episode on the U.S. presidential elections. But before we get into that and detail what all is going on, we're going to address every single executive order that Joe Biden is going to use today. Let's get into the verse of the day. And I want to go into the book of Proverbs. And see, the book of Proverbs, it's oftentimes the book of wisdom. The book in which that gives a great insight on how to handle a lot of situations in life. And so one of the verses here that I'm going to just speak to you is in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 33. And it's a very simple verse, but yet it really just speaks to me today. Then I want to bring it to you. And starting in verse 33, the fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. You know, many times today, especially in a key day in which we have a transition of power from former President Donald Trump into current President Joe Biden and former Vice President Mike Pence into current Vice President Kamala Harris, we see that there is a transfer of power, and with that comes tremendous responsibility. And really having a healthy and reverent fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, obtaining wisdom through godly counsel. And remember, before honor comes humility, and that we all must be humbled at some time to get to the path that we're currently on. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit, just kind of give you a brief update no matter where you're at in the world. Today, just over the last couple of hours, Joe Biden was sworn in as the 42nd President of the United States. And as you see this happening, really this is a event that when you look at it from a global perspective has a tremendous impact. It's a tremendous impact on the Middle East, on the relationship with Israel, on Iran, as we start to talk about Iran, and the U.S. now is in talks with Iran to re-enter an Iran nuclear deal. You look at immigration, you look at the immigrants coming from Honduras, Venezuela, and they're moving north toward the U.S., Mexico, the southern border there. You look at different immigration laws from Europe to come to the United States, from Brazil to come to the United States. We're going to talk about each and every one of those, even down to equity laws. So today here on this special broadcast, one of the things that I really want to come to you and tell you and inform you today is have a candid discussion on the 17 executive laws that Joe Biden's presidency is going to sign today, these executive actions or these executive orders. And so with that, let's jump into them. There's 17. We're going to work through the list and we're going to kind of talk about them. Some are going to be reversals of Trump's policy. Some are going to be new executive orders. And then some are going to kind of be let's extend and expand current plans or current groupings in place. And you'll better understand that here as we move forward. So the first executive order deals with, the first three actually deal with the coronavirus. And as Joe Biden has mentioned in his campaign, he mentioned it in his speeches just recently within the last couple of weeks, he is going to launch a 100-day mask challenge, asking Americans to wear masks for 100 days, and it will be required and physical distance within all federal buildings, on federal lands, by government contractors, and urges states and local governments to do the same. Here, should really catch no one by surprise. This is a mandate that it was talked about during his campaign, toward the end of his campaign, and it was actually started to really pick up steam after November 6th, and we really started to see that. And then really as we got into December 6th, as well as December 15th, and then even moving forward on into the Christmas holidays in the United States, as well as getting into the new year, Joe Biden started mentioning this more and more. So this executive order, it really comes by no surprise. Executive order number 2. This is also on the coronavirus. Stops the United States withdrawal from the World Health Organization, with Dr. Anthony Fauci becoming the head of the delegation to the WHO. Now, it's no secret that Joe Biden disapproved of the United States backing or withdrawing out of the WHO, the World Health Organization. You know, anytime you start to look at this pandemic and it's a global need, I hope and pray that this is a good representative for the American people, because as you see, there's been lots of things in the news about the WHO. So from a biblical perspective, one of the things that you see here is that the United States is now going to reaffirm their position with the WHO. And really, when you look at it from, let's say, a one world government, one world kingdom, one world effort to create a position to effectively fight a pandemic, then this executive order makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that we're jumping right into the beast kingdom right now, but you can see that kind of lays a framework for that to occur, as well as involve the United States and the rest of the world. And so executive order number 3 was also on the coronavirus. And just to give you the source here, all of these are coming from CNN, by the way. The executive order number 3 is not a reversal, but this is a new one. It creates the position of a COVID-19 response coordinator, and it's going to report directly into President Biden, and it's going to manage efforts to produce and distribute vaccines and medical equipment. Now, previously, when you looked at the COVID-19 response coordinator, that position was largely held by Vice President Mike Pence. Many times former President Trump even brought Mike Pence on. Remember the daily webcasts and the daily news conferences that were provided based upon the effort to, whether it was to make PPE, whether it was to distribute PPE, whether it was talk about kind of the ups and the downs of what was going on that day. That position now will actually be a formal position, and it's going to report directly into Joe Biden. So as you see, the 3 executive orders or executive actions that Joe Biden's going to implement here for the coronavirus, really the one main reversal is going back into the WHO, and then Dr. Anthony Fauci taking that lead role. The other ones, as far as the COVID-19 response coordinator, it was really already in place. It's just now going to formally be directed to a personnel with that specific job title and not the vice president. And now keep in mind, that coordinator could still be Kamala Harris as a vice president, depending on what Joe Biden chooses to do. But this is, kind of where we're at now. We will report on it if more information becomes available. The next executive orders 4 and 5 deal strictly with the economy, and these are going to kind of be a little bit different. Now, these are not reversals, but these are where I talked about extending or really improving the grouping of some executive orders. And so the first one extends the existing nationwide moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until at least March 31st. This is good for many people. Many people have lost their jobs during the pandemic. Many people are struggling to pay rent, pay their mortgages. And as you see this, although mortgage rates are historically low at this point in time in the United States, this extends or makes stronger that grouping of executive orders for the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures, which means basically it gives people an extended grace period up to March 31st. And then for the second on the economy for Executive Order 5, it extends the existing pause on student loan payments and interest for Americans with federal student loans until at least September 30th. So really what you're looking at now is several more months. And, to September 30th, this really gives people almost 9 more months, really eight months and some change, to really, have to not worry about student loan payments on federal student loans. This doesn't cover private student loans, but this covers federal. So as you can see, those types of executive actions and executive orders are really just kind of making stronger the executive orders in place, and it's very good for the American people. Now, next, executive orders 6 and 7 deal strictly with the environment. Now, these are going to be very unique because these are going to be reversals. And this is going to be very significant here, and we'll talk a little bit about this. The first one, it makes it where the United States rejoins the Paris Climate Accord. And this process takes about 30 days officially. There's a little bit of paperwork. There's a monetary commitment. There's really kind of getting in place, kind of an audit of where the United States is at industrial-wise and climate monitoring-wise for acceptability into the Paris Climate Accord. Remember, one of the key things about the Paris Climate Accord, previously when it was negotiated through former President Obama and now current President Joe Biden when he served as the vice president, was that they talked about getting a carbon-free footprint. And they used certain designations by this percentage by 2030, this percentage by 2040, this percentage by 2050. Look for that type of step-up arrangement in a new deal moving forward. I would say that really maybe by mid-February, Valentine's Day, the week after Valentine's Day, to look for some more action to come out upon it. And then the next reversal for the environment, this one's real big here in the United States. It cancels the Keystone XL Pipeline and directs agencies to review and reverse more than 100 Trump actions on the environment. Now, this is a lot of words in an executive order. So really what we're gonna talk about here is that the Keystone Pipeline created lots of jobs, lots of opportunities, lots of businesses, even in rural parts of America. And now canceling that pipeline, really you're going to figure out what's going to be done with the workers, what's going to be done with the jobs that were gained there. So there will be some changeover and transition there. Now the 100 or Trump actions on the environment, many of these were removing regulatory requirements and or removing, let's just say emission standards that really lax those standards, and it caused companies to come back into the U.S. It really made a big difference in boosting, let's just say, made in America products. Now, this will be an important executive order to watch because there's lots of legalities tied up into this one, as you can imagine, lots of companies. And I would imagine that as this executive order is enforced and really we start to get more and more of the details of it, one of the things we're going to notice is that there will probably be a step down process as far as removing this contaminant from, let's just say, air pollution, by this date, and by this date. Look for that to be a step down process, particularly where the regulations are now, and as many of them have been relaxed. So the next executive order deals with equity. The next two do, and this would be number 8. And this rescinds the Trump administration's 1776 commission. It directs agencies to review their actions and ensure racial equality. Okay, this one's going to be kind of different here because when you look at this, one of the requirements was that you can't hire anybody based on race, but you're right, you hire them based on their qualifications. And when we look at this, it's going to be very different as far as what executive orders or what plans the Biden and Harris administration put into place to ensure racial equity and then kind of equality across the board. This isn't one that you just rescind and don't put anything in its place. So something's coming. That's going to be a good one to watch as well. And then the next one, number 9, it prevents workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. This also kind of goes hand in hand with only hiring someone based upon their qualifications. And when you see this actually, takes into account that, no matter really during a hiring process, during a workplace audit, you'll start to see that even on applications, you may even remove the sex to actually be filled out during that process. I see that there will be some requirements from this moving forward, and I think every single workplace will have to pay careful attention because that will impact each and every person. And then in number 10, it's the census, and so this is kind of neat here, and this is also a reversal, but it requires non-citizens to be included in the census and apportionment of congressional responsibilities. That's a lot of words into that. I do think each and every person should be included in the census that's here in America and here in the United States. Now, number one, it gives the government a better idea of who they are. Now, I would hope that when they're included in the census, they're also included with a way to identify them, a way to find them, basically. And the apportionment of congressional representatives would mean basically that based upon the people, or as the new people come in, the congressional representatives are largely based on population and population sizes. So that gives a way to add more representatives moving forward in the future. There's a lot of wording to that. There's going to be a lot of clauses to that. But one of the things that we will look at moving forward is what changes there. A lot of times you'll see that when they give a greater representation of the population with accurate reporting, accurate numbers, it'll increase in just say number of people in the House of Representatives, right? Because we know the Senate is 100 members, 2 from each state. So the next 5 here, deal with immigration. And now these executive orders, these are going to be very significant here. This might be one of the greatest areas, other than maybe the coronavirus or the census, that's really going to impact here on day 1. And the next 3 will be reversals. This one will not. And on immigration, fortifies DACA after Trump efforts to undo protections for undocumented people brought into the country as children. Basically, the people brought into the country as children, they are going to now get rights to, basically, they're going to fortify the DACA. And when you see this, basically the people brought into the country as children, remember, when a child is brought into the United States, they're a citizen if they're born here. Well, one of the things they want to do is they want to bring back protections for the children being brought across, whether they're unborn or born. And so they really want to kind of bring that and give a greater sense of protection for those children that are making the journey, in the caravans, or really they're just coming across legally. Okay, so the next executive order, this will be 12 here, is a reversal. 12, 13, and 14 are reversals. And the 12 reverses the Trump administration restrictions on U.S. entry for passport holders from 7 Muslim majority countries. Basically, Trump had it to where Muslims from 7 Muslim majority countries could not come to the United States. There were severe restrictions in which someone from those countries, I'll say, could come only if they passed, let's say, an assessment of many questionnaires and of many different backgrounds checks and things like that. And it was severely restricted. And what you saw there was that many deserving people did not get to come into the country, in my opinion. But what you also saw there was it kept a lot of people that were maybe not coming to the America with great intentions out. And so it will be interesting to see where the Biden and Harris administration finds their middle ground here. Because when you start to see this could even be something. Remember, this was sent to court and sent into legislation for many, many months and kind of flip-flop through the court. So really something to watch. And then the next reversal undoes Trump expansion of immigration enforcement within the United States. Trump increased border security, increased through enforcement. We're going to talk a little bit about the border wall here and on the next executive order, but really he expanded that enforcement. And as a result, as you can see now, there's not, it doesn't seem to be a problem, I would say, based upon the news of many people coming into the United States. And executive action, executive order 14, is a reversal, and this is a big one. It halts construction of the border wall by terminating the national emergency declaration used to fund it. Remember, Trump was just down in Mexico talking about how the latest part of the wall was built, and there was a big press conference last week on it, toward the end of last week, and so now there will not be any work on the wall. And that is not a surprise. That should not catch anyone by surprise. But as we see that, remember, lots of improvements have happened down there on that wall. And it will be interesting to see if or anything happens to that wall. And executive action number 15 is not a reversal, but rather it's one more an improvement executive order. It extends the deferrals of deportation and work authorizations for librarians with a safe haven in the United States until June 30th, 2022. Basically, many people that basically were scheduled to be deported now now they're going to be deferred deportation until the end of June in 2022. So really what this does is this buys time for legislation to pass, maybe a way for immigrants that are undocumented, or if they're here just temporarily on work visas, on a pathway to citizenship. And we've seen many things in the news, many articles here where the Biden-Harris administration was even looking at proposing an 8-year plan for citizenship. Very interesting there, but one of the things we're going to look at is what plan does the Harris and Biden administration basically propose for this, because this has been an issue that's been going on now for nearly 2-3 decades here in the United States. And Executive Order 16 deals with ethics, and this is one that's really new. This is going to create a whirlwind effect, really, in lots of areas, and really particularly in the Department of Justice, because this requires executive branch appointees to sign an ethics pledge, barring them from acting in personal interest and requiring them to uphold the independence of the Department of Justice. It sounds great. It really does sound great. I wonder how they would prove that someone was acting in their personal interest, and what happens if they sign this ethics. Many of us had to take ethics classes in high school or in college, and in the ethics class they always taught you, literally the first part of the class, do not have personal interest in your professional workplace for the gain of your personal self, for the detriment of your workplace, right? So that seems kind of interesting. That will be a whirlwind effect, because the wording in that executive order, now that's just a summary, is going to probably create some stir, I would imagine, moving forward. And then the last executive order we really want to report on today was a regulation. This is an actual reversal, and it directs the OMB director to develop recommendations to modernize regulatory review and undoes Trump's regulatory approval process. So really, this is going to put a head director of regulation in the United States. This is one of those things that really can create a lot more paperwork, can really create a lot more steps to actually be approved and have a regulatory approval process. this will be a little bit different because we will see on who reports to the director here, and that's going to be very important moving forward, particularly as new companies bring themselves into the United States, or they remove themselves from the United States. And when you see the modernized regulatory review, which that tells me a lot of that's probably going to become fast-tracked, and we'll kind of really see where that goes. But that could be something very, very important and very, very good for the United States and the economy. But as you can see, Joe Biden's going to have a busy, busy day. And one of the things that we really are going to start talking about kind of moving forward as we address different things that the Biden-Harris administration is doing is, for the next several days, Joe Biden is going to tackle, the economy in one day, the environment in the next day. He's going to talk about COVID in the next day, and he's really going to ramp these things up over the next couple of weeks. So be looking for more news updates on this. And, as we go back into the word of the Lord, and it says the fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. We just hope and pray that Joe Biden acts and does the will of God, and that Joe Biden really is an example to represent the entire American people and population, and represents the United States on a world stage. So this is really, kind of a very neat way to approach this presidency, and to really do lots of things with just a stroke of the pen today. So I would encourage you, pay attention to that. Pay attention to now the USA being in the Paris Accord, Climate Accord Agreement, being back in the World Health Organization. Notice and pay attention to those types of news articles that come out, because that's going to be very, very important, particularly in biblical prophecy. Because remember that in order for it to have one world government, one world religion, which may or may not be accepting of everyone, a one world currency, there has to be a unity for the one world government to come together. There can't be countries being divisive here, countries being divisive there, right? It all has to come together under one global system. Well, I hope that that's brought some clarity to you to really what's going on kind of in the United States with these executive orders, and really what's going on with this transition of power. As more of these articles come out and as more of this information comes out, I will definitely keep you informed. And I hope that you've found some value in this present day, January 20th on Wednesday, Inauguration Day update, specifically here from the End Time News Network. Well, if you've really enjoyed today's video and you really appreciate the information, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button so I can produce more videos like this for you in the future. Well, once again, this is Brother Wayne from Alabama, and Lord willing, I'll see you soon. You have a great day.